parsha talks about Yosef. Should I take this off?
Yeah, you take it off. Take it off. Just stay away.
Get back in the way. This week's parsha talks about the climax between Yosef and his brother. So the brother sold Yosef. Eventually, they thought they were selling him into slavery. He turns out to be the king of Mitzrayim, and he reveals himself to his brothers. He tells them, "The joke's on you. All my dreams that I dreamt my whole life, they actually came true." The brothers couldn't believe it. They come running back home to their father, and they told their father, Yaakov, that Oid Yosef Chai. Remember our little brother? He was never eaten up by an animal. He's alive. Not just that, he's literally the second in command in the most powerful nation in the world. And the pasuk says that when Yaakov heard that, he couldn't believe it. He said he was in total shock. He couldn't believe it. And Pashat, the reason he couldn't believe it was because he just couldn't believe his son was alive. He thought his son was dead. He had mourned him already for over 20 years. And the fact that he would somehow become this super powerful person, it wasn't something that made any sense to him. But the Sfarim say that there was something a little deeper going on. And that is that when the brothers told Yaakov, Oid Yosef Chai, they told him that, I want you to know, Yosef remained spiritually whole as well. That despite everything that he has gone through, despite the fact that his family completely wrote him off, despite the fact that he was sold from one place to another, his spiritual upbringing that he got in your house, he's chai, he's still alive in that sense. He's spiritually alive. And that was something that Yaakov really couldn't believe. The fact that he's alive, it sounds like a crazy story, but it happens. But that he was able to stay alive with his spirit and be spiritually strong, that was something that he couldn't believe. And the reason he couldn't believe it was because the odds were so heavily stacked against him. He was in Mitzrayim, he was in Egypt, he had no family, he had no support system, and that was something that Yaakov just absolutely couldn't believe. Obviously, in a much less dramatic way, growing up in the United States of America in the early part of the 20th century was very difficult from a spiritual standpoint. It was just very, very hard. You didn't have the infrastructure the way we have it today. It was very hard to keep a job if you weren't going to be willing to, not work on Shabbos. If you went outside of your Dalet Amos, it was going to be very hard to find kosher food. It wasn't something that was easy. And everyone that was able to, survive through that Tkufa, they had to overcome challenges. And Uncle Herby, and it's the first thing that it says on his Matzeva, Noilad V'Gadol Ba'America. He grew up in America at a time where it wasn't easy to stay, religious and to keep the Messiah and the tradition that he got from his parents. But at the same time, he was able to say, fast forward 88 years later, Oid Herby Chai. He remained alive spiritually, and he never gave up. And it was his Yiddishkeit was something that was very important to him, and it's a tremendous schus for any person that that lived through that era, for him to be able to live a life and to remain faithful and to keep your spirit. It's a tremendous schus, and it's definitely it's very befitting of being the first thing to be written on on someone's matzeva. Uncle Herby. I'm sorry, Herby was he was a member of the Young Israel of Manhattan. He used to always talk of the Lower East Side. He used to always say over at the Shabbos table things that he heard from Rabbi Sif. Zaidi used to always tell him Rabbi Sif is wrong and it's not true, and the bells befit it's a chazai, and hence the
together.
but he used to always love to say, Rabbi Sif said you have to say this and you have to say that. Herby always took his davening very seriously. Always davening with a minyan. He used to always make brachas. I remember him always benching. His mirrors was always a very big deal. I had I sat at many Pesach Storim together with Uncle Herby. They used to go through it in an hour. I mean, it was done. 10:30, it was over. Uncle Herby was still singing. He was up to Allah Ma'anya, and he was listening. What happened to the? He's listening. Yeah, he's all right. He was looking for the matzah and the maror. He was done already. He said, does I like. But this is what it was. He took his davening very seriously, and it was something that meant a lot to him. But I think above anything else, Herby he had an amunah pshuta. You hear a lot about amunah pshuta, where he he was a soldier in the sense that he was raised a certain way. He went to yeshiva. He was taught a certain way. He didn't over philosophize everything. I don't think he understood everything. I don't think he tried to understand everything. But I think he understood. He was raised by parents that gave him a messiah that they had received from their parents, and this was something that was very important to him, literally until the last minute. And he was a pashut yid in the sense that he had a muna pshuta, and the truth is, it's a very, very chashuv thing. Herby was a very honest man. He was an ish yasher. He radiated yashrus, not leaving over any debt. But he radiated he was just a very, very yasher person. He was a very pleasant person. I spent many Shabbosim with him over the years. I remember every few weeks he would come for Shabbos, and whenever Uncle Herby came for Shabbos, it was always like an added something. It was always fun, and he liked telling me how young he is, and how he tried getting the senior citizen discount. They thought he was 35, and he was very proud of his height and his full head of hair, whatever. He was very excited about it. And
the math, remember the math?
Right, all the math tricks and exactly. And he was a very, very pleasant person. He was very nice, to be around, and I miss him. I'll tell you the truth. I woke up this morning, my back was killing. I couldn't even walk, but I didn't want to miss this. I know Zaidi always said, if you don't do it today, there's no tomorrow. And I just felt that I wanted to be here because, and not for me, I felt like I owed it to him. He was a big part of our life, and he was very proud of his family. And the truth is, we were very proud of him. So, Uncle Herby, we miss you. And you should be a Melitz Yosher for, my parents, of course, and Michael, and Yoini, and Brenda, and Joel, and for everyone that took care of you. And, of course, Bubu and Zaidi, what she did for you while, she was alive. It was, I remember she said, I have to take the call. Herby's calling. I'm going to call you back. Herby's calling. They would discuss what Bob Grant said and what this one said and what that one said. I saw that movie 1,000 times, but, and I enjoyed it all 1,000 times. So the truth is, my Uncle Herby, you were a kohen and used to bench everybody with the brach of shalom, the yasim l'cha shalom. That's what a kohen does. He gives everyone the brach of shalom. So we want to give you back the brach of shalom. You should rest in peace, and yonuchu al mishkavet b'shalom. And there's no one I would rather be next to in a foxhole than Zaidi, than my grandfather. So I think you're in good hands. You just follow his coattails, and you'll get into wherever you need. You have all the protection in the world, and you should be a Melitz Yosher for the whole family.
They got that spot.